Hi guys, thanks for joining me for another round of Saturday morning stories right here on Thailand Bound. I'm happy to report I've got 5 brand new stories for you today to read out to you. They haven't been read out on my channel anyway. I don't know if the guys have sent them to other channels, but they're brand new to me anyway. Hopefully you'll enjoy this. The only thing today, there's a little bit of building work going on in the building. I think it's in this building, and occasionally I hear a bit of drilling or banging. Hopefully I'll carry on. Hopefully it won't get too bad, and hopefully it won't interfere with me telling the stories and you being able to listen to them. Okay, so as I say, I've got 5. I'm going to jump straight in to the first of 5 stories today.
สวัสดีค่ะ
This would be my second visit to Phuket. On my first visit, I had a girlfriend with me from Bangkok. She was familiar with Phuket, so we saw the highlights and partied. This time, I was by myself and had the opportunity to have some fun alone. I did not get to Bangla Road until midnight, but still felt like I had time to sort things out. After hitting a couple of clubs I was familiar with, I had been partying with some girls. However, they were all pushy, grabby and clamouring for drinks. Most of them were blasted on tequila or Red Bull and vodka. When I asked about one girl, the mama-san seemed concerned since I was in Koh Samui and wanted a premium plus a 1,000 baht drink fee. I declined, thinking, it's 3:45 AM, the bar is closing and you want a 1,000 baht drinks fee? No thank you. It was late by then and the options were slim. While walking out, I decided to check out the freelancers, a rare approach for me for several reasons. As usual, there were dozens lined up, but nothing really caught my eye in the varied assortment of girls. Off to the right, back by the wall away from the others, was a short, petite, darker skinned girl in just a tank top, cut-off jeans and white trainers. She looked like she was waiting for a bus, not a customer. She wasn't reaching out or yelling at passing men. She had long, shiny hair, exceptionally light eye makeup, bright eyes and a wide smile. She was a natural cutie. She looked to be in her late 30s or early 40s. When I approached her, I asked her about her situation. She replied that she's had a room and offered short time. Her English was good and she spoke with ease. I told her that I was not a short time kind of guy and that I had a nice villa in Koh Samui, just a few minutes away and very scheduled. I made sure she knew about this as it might be a deal breaker. I mentioned that I would cover her transportation the following day, that it wasn't a problem. She readily agreed, but I sensed a glimmer of hesitation. We then got in a tuk-tuk back to Koh Samui. She told me her name was Ta, aged 42, and that she came from a farming family. She supplemented her income by coming to Phuket, tried the bar scene, but was uncomfortable with the alcohol use, so turned to freelancing instead. Ta had a very pleasant way about her. As we spoke, she was casual and comfortable. That night at the villa was wonderful. She had a sensuality about her while engaged in aerobics, a gentleness without hurry. The following morning, she admitted to being reluctant to my offer, but added that she had a wonderful time. She mentioned that she goes on to Bangla Road about 10 PM and that I should look for her if I wanted. I did go back the next night and found her chatting with a couple of other freelancers. She immediately saw me, seemed pleased that I had returned and said, let's go. We were off for a few racks of pool at a nearby spot. After that, we headed to Koh Samui. Throughout both nights, it was an easy, relaxed time. One thing I noticed was that she had no online presence and did not constantly look at her phone, either sending or receiving messages on WhatsApp or Line, which can be very distracting and rude in certain situations. The whole time she was present and not wandering in and out of online, no selfies, no pictures of food or her location with pictures on her Instagram feed, which is quite common now amongst bar girls. Ta also did not drink, which was refreshing. I don't normally drink, so it can be a drag to be with a drunken bar girl in many situations. The villa I had booked, I had a private infinity pool that looked out over Koh Samui beach. We had more time that night and went skinny dipping and fooling around in the pool for a while. The aerobics were fantastic once again. She had an incredibly soft and easy approach that was appreciated. She reminded me of a mellow hippie chick from back in the day. The next day, I was going back to Bangkok. We slept in a while and took our time getting out of bed. We said our goodbyes and I thanked her for a genuinely nice time. She departed and we did not exchange information. Overall, this was one of the best experiences I have had in Thailand, even going back to my first visit to the islands in the late 70s. It wasn't planned but exceeded any expectations. It felt like what you would imagine in a distant daydream when anticipating travelling to Thailand for the first time. Quite a nice story, that one. Yeah, it sometimes works out like that, doesn't it? You know, you meet somebody unexpectedly and they turn out to be real nice and you haven't got all the nonsense of mama sans and bar fines and ladies' drinks. And it sounded like it worked out good for the guy. And the guy had the right frame of mind. When it was over, it was over. He went back to what he does and he didn't try to keep the holiday romance going online. So well done to him. Right, jumping straight into story number 2. This is one of my many stories in Asia, and it involves my first encounter with a Thai girl. It was early 2003 and I was out of my country for the first time. I lived in a Southeast Asian country and needed to take a language exam to study in the USA. Due to scheduling issues, I took a flight to Bangkok and stayed in a cheap apartment, courtesy of my father's friend, a Thai business person. The lady had multiple businesses and one of them was a condominium building with a gym. I would visit the gym to improve my fitness. At the time, I was very skinny and decided I could use my free time to get fit. It was at this gym that I met an older Thai girl I called Peenie. I was 20 and she was 4 years older than me, hence P. She had a kind personality, was a foot shorter than me, had an Angelina Jolie look-alike face and was naturally well endowed. She worked at the same expensive tower, either as a massage therapist or a beautician. My memory fails me on the exact details. It was not the place to bar fine someone back for aerobics. Up to this point, I had not had any romance with any girls. Due to my family and financial situations, I had solely focused on education and part-time work. Although some girls were interested in me, I held myself back to focus on self-improvement. Peenie was not my first love, but she was the first one I decided to pursue. We hit it off very well and it felt genuine. She knew I didn't have much money, so I'm quite sure she wasn't trying to get any out of me. We would visit various places around Bangkok as much as our small budget allowed. Once we tried aerobics but didn't go too far, it was then that I found out she had a Thai boyfriend. She was torn between her boyfriend and me. I promised her that I wouldn't forget her once I got to the USA and would come back for her. My stay in Thailand was short, about 5 weeks or so. So a few months later, I arrived in the USA for school. As you can imagine, long-distance communication didn't last long between Peenie and me. As I was starting out on my own in the USA, within a year, I decided not to bother her too much, knowing she chose her Thai boyfriend over me. Fast forward a few years after breaking up with a girlfriend, I was in a better financial situation and reached out to stay connected with Peenie. By this point, she was still with her Thai boyfriend and did not respond much to me. I ended up chatting mostly with her Chinese friend, whom I had also met briefly. I started a long-distance relationship with a Chinese girl who was also a few years older than me. Peenie, on the other hand, had moved to Dubai to work as a beautician at a hotel. Given what I had heard about Dubai, I found it dubious. Her romance with her Thai boyfriend ended while she worked that job as he left her for a younger Thai girl, according to her. By this time, I was deeper into my relationship with our Chinese friend, so she could not ask me to rekindle our relationship, and personally, I did not want to because I was her second choice. She was in a sad situation having aerobics with men in her apartment who came from Bangladesh to work in Dubai, but were not romantically attracted to her. Fast forward a few years later and Peenie told me she went back to Thailand and was becoming more spiritual as she was now over 30 and couldn't find anything but disappointment in her romantic life. She was obviously single and even got to the point of sending me chili-infused pictures to get my attention. At this moment, I was single again, but chose not to pursue her since she had chosen someone else over me initially. And her age was past its prime. Bear in mind, she was still very fit. She had not let time take its toll on her beauty. Around 2014, she met a guy from Europe while they both worked at a real estate company in Thailand. The man had a daughter from a previous marriage and asked Peony to marry him and come to Europe. She was incredibly happy with this opportunity and accepted. She developed a good relationship with his teenage daughter and they regularly update their travels together on Facebook page. I am happy for her that she was able to get the family life she wanted, even though her age prevented her from conceiving her own children without elevated risks. Life takes turns where we least expect, at least so far has been my experience. This was a happy ending story as far as I have witnessed. What I think from that story, it sounds like the guy was only in his 20s. He was probably quite a good looking guy, and the girl already had a Thai boyfriend, but she probably just fancied playing around a little bit. That's what it sounded like anyway. He didn't actually mention how old he was now. It would have been interesting to know how long ago this took place, but there you go. Right, let's jump straight into story number 3 of 5 today. 40 years ago, in my mid-20s, I took some paid leave. It was autumn and getting cold in Germany, so I decided to escape the oncoming winter and took off to Thailand. My plan was to stay for a year and learn the difficult language. This was my 3rd trip to the land of smiles. I landed in Bangkok and stayed there for a few days. I knew some people in Isan province, so I took a bus there. A Norwegian guy with a Thai wife operated a cheap guest house, and a local lady nicknamed Knock was a frequent visitor. After about 3 weeks, having spoken to her numerous times, I asked the Norwegian guy if it was a good idea to buy a motorbike. Since I could not buy it in my name, Knock bought it in hers. I was aware of the risk. She could just take it from me and I would have no legal recourse. In Peter's weekly stories, Isan girls are often painted as scammers and gold diggers, but not all Isan women are that way. After a year, I gave Knock the bike. We agreed on a price she paid on the spot and we parted as friends. After doing some day tours in the area, I took off to Chiang Mai. Then I headed north with no goal in mind. I drove on Highway 107 as it was getting dark. In the area of Phang, I saw a foreigner walking. Where to, stranger? I asked him. I'm off to the local bar, if you know what I mean, he said. That's not for me, I replied. I just need some food and a place to sleep. That place is the only one around here where you can get food at this time of the day. I'll show you where to stay the night afterwards. Okay, hop on and let's go. He got on the back of the bike and we drove for about 2 kilometres to the said house of ill repute. The Papa Sam welcomed us and the girls all smiled and giggled and cooked us some food. We stayed and chatted. Jim was from the USA and he recently divorced from his Thai wife. He asked me where I wanted to go. On my paper map, no Google Maps in those days, there was a road. Jim told me that some princess had come for the groundbreaking party and they had a big festival but ran out of money, so the road was never finished. Blue-eyed as I was, I couldn't believe it. As a German, if there is a road on the map, it surely must be there, right? I thought Jim was making it up. We ended the conversation with a bet. If I made it to Chiang Rai within 24 hours, taking that route, got a postal stamp as proof and came back, I would win the bet. I stayed for a while and one morning I took off. I took Highway 107 south to 1150 east. Pretty soon I met Thai workers with heavy equipment. They were building the local road, I thought. They had to move some dirt with a caterpillar so I could pass. They smiled and laughed, but in hindsight I think they were wondering, what is this crazy Farang doing in the middle of nowhere? 15 kilometres on, I had to stop because of a giant puddle on the dirt road. I poked it with a stick, about 30 centimetres of water. I took about 50 metres distance to the pool, sped up and fell headfirst into the mud. It was sticky as glue. It took all of my muscle to get the bike out of the dirt before it drowned. I drove on wet and caked in mud. The dirt road got from bad to worse for hours. Because I could drive only in second gear, I was nearly out of gas when I reached a paved road near highway number 1, leading to Chiang Rai after 70 kilometres of wilderness with no people, no houses, no evidence that I wasn't the only human being on the planet. There was a fork and I didn't know which way to take. I couldn't afford a mistake due to being low on fuel. The signboard was written in Thai only. There were some factory girls at a bus stop. Factory because they all wore the same t-shirt with a company logo. My Thai was very limited, so I didn't know how to say, "Can you read this for me?" I could only say, "Can you read?" and pointed to the street sign in Thai. They all assured me, yes, we can read, but didn't get that I wanted them to read the sign for me. I had to take a chance. I decided to go right, which was logical, and soon I hit highway number 4 to Chiang Rai. It was early evening when I rode into town. By chance, I drove into a private alley with tall trees leading to an old mansion. A guy came out, looked me up and down, then at my bike and back to me, covered in dirt from head to toe. He said to me, "I have a room with a bathtub." I replied, "I'm buying, I don't need to see first." I cleaned up, slept early. The next morning I went to the post office, but the guy was unwilling to stamp a piece of paper for me. Sometimes Thais can be stubborn as Germans. I insisted, courteous but stern, and after about 20 minutes I left with the evidence in hand. I wanted to take the 1089 back to Phang but missed it. Soon I was on a dirt road again. Stubborn as I was, I didn't turn back but pushed on. After about 2 hours the dirt road turned into a shallow river. To the right was a big house. I turned to it for information. It looked like a reform school for teenagers. The headmaster came out, but communication was difficult. It seemed like he didn't even speak Thai. Maybe they were all tribes people. But then they were humans, so a bit up the shallow river there could be the road I was looking for. I pressed on, driving in first gear though, 15 centimetres of water. Yes, stupid, I know. Hours went by when suddenly, behind a bend, a group of 6 men appeared with donkeys. The animals were loaded with big packets. You can guess what it was, right? The leader of the group looked startled. He approached me with a menacing face. Clearly, he was not Thai, hill tribe. Not likely, more Chinese. We communicated with hand gestures. Little English, no Thai with his bad English. He got the message across. Have you seen anything? I stole a look at the loaded donkeys and assured him I was totally blind and I hadn't seen anything. He made a sign with his thumb across the throat and laughed unmistakably, telling me that I'd said the right thing and better stick to it. All the while the other 5 men stood behind the donkeys, so I couldn't see what was in their hands. What were they holding? Machetes? Rifles? To this day I don't know. As soon as they came, they were gone. I shivered like a leaf. At this point I would have liked to turn back, but it definitely wasn't a good idea to follow those guys. No chance. I drove on with an almost empty fuel tank. Another 2 hours and I was on an empty road, 15 kilometres walking back. Tears came to my eyes. In desperation I drove on, and if you think it can't get worse, the end of the world in the form of a big brown earth wall was steep. I cursed and cried. What had I done? How could I be this stupid? Getting myself into this situation as if the experience yesterday at the mud puddle wasn't warning enough. I sat down as if to die there. Some sixth sense made me turn and look up that wall. There he stood, a foreigner. "Hey buddy, what are you doing down there?" My answer, "I just wanted to ask, what the F you doing up there?" We laughed. I explained my situation. He took half an hour to lug that bike up. The end of the earth wall turned out to be the shoulder of the road I had missed earlier. Just as we started, my fuel ran out. As luck would have it, the road was downhill, so I could roll until the next village and get gas. I made it back to Phang, and I won the bet. Jim the American was a gentleman about it and paid up. He didn't even want to see the stamp I wrestled from the stubborn postal employee. His ex-wife came and invited me to her village to stay for a few days. That was an experience, as the village was close to the Burmese border, and one village guy took me illegally, but that's another story. So that's a really good story. I enjoyed reading that the first time round. You'll find there's 2 types of guys who come here to Thailand. There's guys like this guy who just get on a scooter or a bus and have no real plan, and they just go for it and they wander and they explore. And then you get the other sort of guys who come to Sukhumvit and they don't go any further than Soy Cowboy or Soy Nana. They're in the kind of Farang ghetto here in Sukhumvit. it. Or they go to Pattaya and they never leave the bars at night. It's always nice to hear stories from guys who venture out, and that was a good story. Right, let's jump into story number 4. I never thought I would be one to submit one of these stories, but I think it is important to share, as others may be tempted to make a similar judgment call. A little about me. I'm a 51-year-old and have been going to Thailand for 7 years, ever since the divorce. Like so many of us do, I have travelled to Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, Bangkok, Phuket, Hua Hin, and you know the world capital of lies and lust, Pattaya. I have studied the Thai language on and off since that time and can speak enough to have a simple conversation if someone doesn't speak English. I thought if I learnt Thai, I might understand Thailand more. That has not happened yet. If I think I know something, I probably don't. I work remotely, so I can typically go to Thailand for 6 months out of the year, and mainly central Pattaya. For all the typical reasons a man goes there, towards the end of my last trip, I got tired of being a butterfly and lonely and thought I might try to find a living girlfriend. The last month I was there, I did. I met her on Soy Bacau from a bar I had taken several ladies from in the past. It was such a high turnover, the faces are always new. She was 20 and so cute, could not speak any English beyond yes, no, okay, thank you. She was drunk the first time I met her, so I did not take her. There is nothing worse than getting a lady home, she melts off the motorcycle and lays in the parking lot, and you have to get the security guards to help you get her up off the ground. I will file the next to the night I took a blind lady from Soy Diana, another night of what the heck was I thinking. I make so many spur-of-the-moment bad decisions. A few days later, I went back to bar find her. We had a fun time. She is very warm and fun, and so new to the scene. Next weekend I take her out for 2 days. Then after that she starts coming over after she gets off work at the bar for free. Her 1-month contract at the bar ends and she moves in with me. So my last few weeks in Pattaya were just her, and she never asked for money. She got sick last week and had a fever and a cough, so I took care of her. She plans to go back to Buriram when I leave Thailand. The night before I fly out, she goes to Bangkok with me. A bid farewell at the airport. This is where I should have left Thailand behind in my mind and in my heart until next time. She seemed so redeemable to not fall into the Pattaya nightlife. I knew it was a risk, but my emotions blocked any kind of logical thoughts. My mistake, a long-distance relationship with a bar girl. When she gets back to Buriram, she love bombs me, posting pictures of us together on social media and her endless love for me, and can't wait until I come back in 6 months' time. She calls me twice a day. I met her family, grandma, mum, daughter, who is 5 and that she had when she was just 15. The Thai man, who is the father, is long gone. I guess they broke up when he was with her best friend too. She speaks very little of her father and says he is always drunk. So we make it official on social media and say we are together. She calls me every morning and night, either from home or where she is working at a factory. Life is good for just 2 months. Chat all the time, constant communication. I am smitten to get this much attention. Most girls forget me for the most part when I leave and never level this amount of public affection towards me. I know this is the most foolish thing to do, but I send her a couple of thousand baht here and there. I never crossed the $1,000 line in total. I make good money and always have plenty to travel the world and buy anything I want. I would like to think I really did buy a refrigerator for a family in Isan. This is where things really get derailed and unravel. She loses her job at the factory. I feel bad for her, so I sent her 10,000 baht so she would not be stressed looking for work. Now during this time she also starts taking medication for mental illness, anxiety and depression, and maybe I think she might be bipolar. She also has a past suicide attempt in her history after her baby's dad left her. So let's take inventory. She is young, met in a bar, elementary school education, has mental illnesses and a baby at 15, and her family is poor. Another story is her mum owes 3 million baht for bills related to her chronically drunk father who does not work. No red flags here, right? What could go wrong? I am really rethinking if this is a burden I want to carry. I don't know what good things she could bring to my life other than eye candy and aerobics fun. The other thing that really starts during this time in my inner voice and gut feeling saying something is way off. She says she gets a new job in a restaurant and cannot use her phone and is no longer available at regular times, and if she does call, the background noise has changed. She is not at home anymore. I ask if she has gone back to the bar and she says no, she would never do that again. I do some internet research and find her on TikTok and loads of new pictures dressed up super sexy. My sweet bar girl has gone back to her calling and returned to Pattaya. If I have been with bar girls before, I kind of know what to expect. I have had ones that work on Soy 6 come stay with me after they get off work for free. They are transparent. No one is pretending. The house of cards is not built with lies. But this girl is an expert liar and may have been the whole time. And I fell for it. I think it was because she was so inexperienced and I was lonely. I really want to kick myself for buying in. We video chatted and she admitted her deceit. I know I cannot trust a word that comes out of her mouth, and her peers seem to be really coaching her hard. She is going to be a pro in no time. Being poor and undereducated with limited options, I'm not going to be mad at her. Their lives are a fight for survival. I would like to think what we had in the beginning was real as time goes by. I hope to wonder less and become oblivious. I have now dedicated myself to no contact and moving on. In November, I will be back in the lies and lust capital of the world, Pattaya. If I see her, who knows, but I have seen through this illusion and I'm trying to forgive myself for being foolish. A lot of guys leave comments on my stories, you know, like I'll tell a story like this and about guys who fall in love with bar girls, and they'll leave comments and say, how can the guy have been so stupid, or the guy was a simp, or that would never happen to me. But it does happen to guys. It happens to intelligent guys. It happens to guys who they're not stupid guys. What happens, they go to Pattaya, maybe retire. It's a great place to go and retire, and the first couple of months is fun and they're bar finding. But what happens, like anywhere else in the world, you can get lonely. But you know, it's going out on bar finds with bar girls and changing nightly. It's not real, is it? And some guys do get desperate for some real kind of love, company. And when they've been there for a few months and they've met quite a lot of girls, there are the one or two that stick out as nicer than the run-of-the-mill bar girls. And some guys do take a chance and they start taking them for dinner, and it becomes more and more. And before they know it, they've actually fallen for the girl. The girl comes round every night. They don't want to be alone in the apartment anymore. They're used to having somebody there. And unfortunately, it's very difficult for a bar girl to change her colours. She's always going to do what she does because her first priority in life is her family, and to get money from Pattaya to send to her family. So although she might genuinely like a guy, she's not going to stick with him if she's not earning a salary from that guy. And it's unfortunate, but it still happens to a lot of people. We hear these stories all the time. Right, okay, let's jump into our fifth and final story today. I was watching your YouTube channel and I also had some experiences. I have to say, I'm not a typical bar girl guy. I don't go to bars because I don't like that scene. I think the best way to avoid being scammed is not to be needy for women. I had some weird experiences with Western girlfriends, so I changed my behaviour with women. Maybe this is a completely different story from Thailand than others. I am a 54-year-old guy, not wealthy but also not poor, coming from Central Europe and a native German speaker. I have visited Thailand for 25 years, mostly with my former family, my wife and newly born son from my home country. We used to stay for 3 months in winter with a tourist visa for 2 months and then extend for a third month at the immigration office. After my first visit, I got addicted to Thailand, not to the girls but to the climate, food, nature and the warm hearts of the Thai people. At that time, I also visited many bars just out of interest. We had much fun with the ladies at the bars because they were very open-minded, told us many stories without hiding or lying. My family and I came every winter for long stays, visiting the whole of southern Thailand. We mostly stayed for 3 to 8 days in one location. It was a very cheap time, even when staying in good hotels. After many years, I divorced my wife and started visiting Thailand alone. I was not the kind of guy looking for bar girls or short-time fun, so I didn't go to the bar scene. I went to Pattaya once alone and had an experience with a bar girl which was weird, so I never returned to Pattaya. It's not my place. I prefer islands like Samui or Phangan with nice nature and a quiet life. I was never looking for girls, but in Thailand it is very difficult not to get in contact with Thai girls. Once after divorcing from another relationship with a Western woman, I looked on dating sites for a serious relationship. Many ladies wrote that they were also looking for serious relationships, but I quickly found out they were all fakes and working as freelancers. When I am alone in Thailand, I never go to lady bars because that is not what I'm looking for, as I've already said. I met some girls from dating apps telling them that I am not looking for aerobics. Some ladies were very weird. They asked for money even without aerobics, only for spending time, but said they were looking for something serious. So I decided to spend my time without ladies, but one day I met a pregnant Thai girl and we saw each other nearly every day. We kept in contact, and on my next visit to Thailand we met again. It was pretty good friendship. She showed me her baby son and never asked for money. She acted as my private tourist guide, drove me around with her mother's car, and we had a great time together even without having aerobics. I saw many things that I would never have seen without her. She is nearly 15 years younger than me, so I never saw her as a lady for love. We visited many of her friends and even spent time with her mother at her home in Surat Thani. At that time, I was not clear about my thoughts and feelings, also because of my son who is already grown. I spent a lot of time in Thailand just 1 year before. I am very sporty and open-minded, having spent a lot of time in Africa, so Thailand was very well developed for me, even when living a very basic life with Thais and sleeping on the floor with other people. At this time, I cancelled my job and spent many months in Thailand with her. Of course, I paid for food, and we also spent a lot of time with her baby son, but she never asked for money. She also told me that her son was from a Farang boyfriend who never came back. After this time, when I was back in Europe again, we stayed connected without ever having aerobics. She told me she missed me and believed she had fallen in love with me. She said she was now working in her mother's laundry, so she was always with her son. I believed her in everything because I thought I knew her very well from many months, even with some red flags. But we video called every day and she was always with her mother and her baby. After 8 months, she asked for money for the first time because her mother had an accident and she needed money very fast, more than 60,000 baht at the time. I had already cancelled my new job and was looking for a flight, but I didn't tell her. I was not sure what to think, so I decided to book a flight quickly, and my next answer to her was from Bangkok airport. When we met, we went directly to the hospital, and there I saw her mother. She was not lying to me. They had already sold their car to pay for the doctor, but it was just not enough. She only has her mother and her baby, no father, no siblings. At that time, I gave her all my cash in euros and was not worried about it. It sounds weird, but I was happy that she was not lying and I could help her mother. She did everything before asking me for money. I had some savings, so 5,000 euros didn't really hurt me. In this visit to Thailand, I only stayed in her home and the hospital because she was very caring about her mother and son and had to work at the small laundry business too. I extended my stay for 1 more month and gave her another 5,000 euros for buying another car, and she did it the very next day. We were able to bring her mother home from the hospital with a new car. I saw the happiness in her mother's eyes. Since then, I have a new love and a new family in Thailand. I started bringing my own grown son to my new family. This was about 4 years ago and we're all happy. I have to work in my own home country for a few years, and she visited me a few times in Europe too. While I spent many months a year in Thailand, I can see that Thai people live completely different from Western people, and I can see that in Europe I have never had such a lovely and caring girlfriend. With another 15,000 euros, I improved and enlarged their home, so we have privacy and my son and I have a home base when we come to Thailand. We like this place very much because we can go to Krabi and Samui very easily, and my son is welcome all the time, even when he comes with his friends. He is also like a family member. Since I met Dao, my life has changed in a very good way, and I'm also happy that my son enjoys this lifestyle. I never thought I would find a lady like Dao because I have seen and heard many things about Thai ladies. When she asked for money, the first time I considered blocking her immediately because it seemed like every story I'd heard. Maybe if I didn't have the flexibility at work and the money at that time, I would have blocked her because I am not the kind of guy who falls for these types of ladies. I thank God that I didn't do that. This was also because of the time we spent together without having aerobics, and she showed me a lot of real interest in Thai life. I saved a lot of money with her. When I was on holiday earlier with my son, we needed about 5,000 euros per month without the flight. So the money was a good investment, and I will not hesitate to spend more money in the future if she needs a car or something else. I used to think my future would be with a Western woman who would also like Thailand and would spend winters there. I saw no future spending time with Thai girls and paying for everything. But things developed differently than I thought. I cannot imagine being with a Western girl anymore. I think many bad stories come from Thailand, come from needy guys, and of course Thai people see these guys as ATMs. I mean, a lot of guys will leave comments saying all Thai girls are scammers, all Thai girls see you as an ATM, and it's like any other country in the world. It's not, you can't paint all Thai girls with the same brush. Most decent Thai girls are very decent, good women. They wouldn't dream of doing something like this. You know, they're shocked actually when they hear stories like this. When we talk about these stories, a lot of these stories take place with guys that find girls in bars or go-go dancers or massage parlors or even freelancers. You know, I mean, they need money, as I said earlier. Their priority is to make money and send it to their families. So, you know, you can't really tar all Thai girls with the same brush. Most of them are decent women. Now, that's not to say that, you know, I'm going to put down anybody who works in a bar or a massage parlor. Most of the girls are very nice, pleasant girls, and they are good fun. But you have to understand, you know, if you're going to date a bar girl, the chances are she's going to want your money, even if she genuinely likes you, because money is, as I say, her first priority. There are a lot of nice girls in Thailand. I've got friends here who are married to Thai girls. They've got serious Thai girlfriends, and they're perfectly happy. And they've said to me, you know, I wish I'd had found a Thai girl a lot of years before my Western girlfriend. So, all right, that's it. I'm rambling on a bit today, guys, as always. 5 good stories there. As always, I'll end as I always do. If you're sitting on a story, please send it in. I'll change your names. I'll make you anonymous, and you too can hear your story read out right here on Thailand Band. But for this week, that's it. Thanks for listening again, and I'll catch you all next Saturday.